What is up, y'all? Listen, if you missed out on Peak Partnership 2022, then you have been living in absolute FOMO for an entire year. And you know what? I don't want that for you. But I got good news for you. Peak Partnership 2023 is coming up. So, man, we can't wait for you to join us in Orlando, Florida. It's February 17th through the 19th. And I'll tell you this, it'll be an even bigger and better event. We're talking more people to network with, more opportunities, more multifamily opportunities, awesome headliners, and of course your boy Tyler Devereaux is going to be up there speaking as well. It's the event of the year, and I can promise you this, you will not want to miss out. So listen, visit mfmpeakpartnership.com. I'll say it again, mfmpeakpartnership.com for more details and to reserve your seat right frickin' now. This event is going to be epic. You do not want to miss out, so click the link in our description to register. Sincerely, what are you waiting for? Click the frickin' link, mfmpeakpartnership.com, and register, and I cannot wait to see y'all there. Aloha.
Welcome to this episode of the Growth Cast. It is me, Jackson Campbell, again joined with Dallas Pruitt for today's extended cut episode. I'm very excited to be here with y'all. Before we dive into what we're going to talk about today, just a quick reminder to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast if it's your first time here. If it is your first time here, let me give you a quick rundown of what the Growth Cast is. Monday through Thursday, we have daily drips provided by Dallas Pruitt, who is here joined with me today. He does 3 to 5 minute episodes, again, Monday through Thursday, to get your mindset straight before you start your day. And then on Friday, we have Tyler Devereaux, who jumps on and does an Aloha Friday episode where he's either being interviewed by myself, where I ask him a multitude of questions so we can gain some knowledge from him, or where Tyler is interviewing other high-level guests as well. If you're tuning into this episode, the episode that was recorded and dropped right before this one was actually Tyler Devereaux interviewing Inky Johnson. So if you haven't listened to that one, go back to that one. Very powerful episode that I'm guaranteed that you will gain something from. But that's what we do here on the Growth Cast. Can't forget about Saturday. Saturday is the extended cut episodes where I get the opportunity to interview Dallas, and we talk about the book of the month. So it is the beginning of a new month, so we'll just dive right into what that book is going to be. This month, the book that we're talking about, that we will talk about on these extended cut episodes, is Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. Very, very, very powerful book, but we're going to dive in. Dal, let's just dive right in.
I feel like saying, get some.
Get some.
What he said, get some.
Get some.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're going to maybe even talk about something else that they used to say.
I feel like I need to talk in that kind of voice during this episode today.
I know. Have you listened to this book?
Oh, dude. Yes. I love it.
It's Jocko, isn't it? Isn't it
it's
Jocko
one
reading
of a kind, man. Like that, his voice is undeniable, and it creates an impact.
It does.
So
if you do like to listen to books, big recommendation is to listen to this one. It's I just said his name. Why did it just go? Jocko Willink. Jocko reading it. Yeah, very powerful. And it does totally add to what he's trying to teach, hearing his voice talk through these things.
Totally.
But Dal, what principle from the book do we want to dive into today?
Yeah, so we're gonna jump into a little section here in just a second. This book, I just wanted to kind of preface, extreme ownership, the principle in and of itself at its root is really this idea that if you want to be a leader, you must first own everything in your world, right? You have control over so much. And until you can learn how to control the controllables within your own life and lead yourself, it's really tough to reach your potential as a leader of a team, a leader of a family, a leader of a business,
a leader of yourself.
That's where it is. That's where it starts, right? Is like you are the leader of your life. And that's one thing that I pulled so much from this book, but just at its heart, at its root, just to kind of like give a summary there, it's very tactical, as a book written by a Navy SEAL would be. But yeah, if you are struggling to control the controllables, if you're struggling to lead yourself, again, this is a great resource. But also, if you are a leader of teams and you find yourself in the midst of chaos in, your company, your business, hell, your family, as mom or dad at the helm, like, it's a great resource. It's a great resource, and the application of the principles is universal across the board. So anyways, just wanted to kind of
First time, I want to add on something there. The first time I read this book, the biggest takeaway that I got from this book is that if you really understand this book and you really put the principles that it teaches to work, what it does is it completely eliminates victimhood, that victimhood mentality that everything's happening and you're not in control and there's all these outside forces that are affecting you. So that would be my quick thing. If you were struggling with feeling like you're the victim of terrible circumstances and you're having a hard time taking complete control of your life and control of these outcomes, this book will completely change the way you think about things that happen to you and how you can attack them. So it's a very powerful book. I just wanted to add that.
It's interesting you bring that up. Before we jump in, I believe that this book was at the tail end of my career when I was a teacher in the public education system. So those that don't know, background story on me, short and simple. I used to teach high school. I used to teach high school in the public education system. And that's where I got my start in education in my professional life, as an educator, as a teacher, as a speaker, if you will. And I remember starting my company and building that out at the same time as working, 40 to 50 hours a week in the school system and being dad and everything else. And then just being frustrated about the system, the broken system of public education. I was a part of it, and I remember falling into victim mentality. And I remember reading this book as I was building my company and working with other leadership groups and companies in my home state, leaving work to go, deliver on what I needed to with my personal business, and getting excited about the growth there. And this was a huge contributing factor to my growth at that stage of the game. But what I wanted to point out was, interestingly enough, after I finished this book, put the principles into practice, was really purposeful and strategic about not just reading it, but really making changes in my life. I got to a stage where I freaking loved my job. It was the most interesting, paradoxical thing on the face of planet Earth, where it was I'm this entrepreneur who's trying to grow my company and my business. And prior to reading this book, I didn't quite grasp these principles enough to not get frustrated or feel like a victim because of what was going on at my personal job. And I'd find myself in this in between world of being excited, but then pissed off, like a victim, but not a victim. And when I got done with this book, dude, I remember telling my wife when I finally exited my career and, my what was producing on the business front surpassed, my income in education, very strategic process there. I remember telling her, oh man, this is weird. I'm exiting my career in public education, but because of books like this, I had become such an owner of the environment and such an owner of myself within that environment and such an owner of all the things that were happening. I was super happy. So I guess I wanted to point that out as I don't care whether you're an entrepreneur trying to do something great, you're in a professional career trying to do something great, you're a teacher and a dad and a business owner like I was, or you're two of those three things, or you're five of other things. It does not matter. At the end of the day, the root is you've chosen all of that. You've chosen all of that, and you get to choose your happiness within the discipline you provide yourself in those aspects, because you bit off those pieces and you chose to chew them all off at the same time. Right. And that was that awakening for me. And I do believe that was a huge contributor to my level of happiness and kind of this weird paradoxical sting when I left my professional career in education, which was, I'm going to miss this place. I'm going to miss all the things I own here. I'm going to miss the impact I'm able to have here. I'm going to miss the impact this has on my life. And so just a super powerful resource.
It really, no, dude, I love that experience. And I love that you shared that. Thank you for sharing that. Another thing, just alongside to those, is when you take ownership of even the problems, when you take ownership of the things you don't like, again, kind of just to wrap up this experience, dude, you end up taking ownership of it. And then it's fun. You have nobody else to blame. You have no finger to point anywhere at extenuating circumstances or anybody else. but it becomes fun because now you're in control and you get to decide how the outcome is, right? We can't always decide what happens to us. That's true. We can't always decide what happens to us, but what we can do is we take ownership on the actions leading from that, whatever.
We can control how we respond. We can control how we respond. And it's a perfect segue to, in the foreword of the book, he states this. He says, they made no excuses. Instead of complaining about challenges, he's talking about the SEALs, right? Then leaders, from his perception, right? Writing the book, they made no excuses. Instead of complaining about challenges or setbacks, they developed solutions and solved problems. They leveraged assets, relationships, and resources to get the job done. Their own egos took a back seat to the mission and their troops. These leaders truly led. And that kind of summarizes what we just broke down, the no excuses, the mentality of it's all good. Those that have been a part of our education understand there's a section where we break down stress and how the proper response to stress should be, it's all good, period. Not like no bad stress, no good stress. Stress is just stress. And our response to stress can really build us up, and we can become more courageous in life based off the way we respond to stress. And so if you really view it that way, like all stress is good stress. Mm-hmm. And it made me think of, in recent news, bring some recency into today's episode with this new book of the month. Anybody who likes the playoffs in the NFL, I don't know how many Jaguars fans are out there. This is probably a pretty small number. I better watch what I'm saying. We got a pretty solid home base in Florida, but my assumption is, and I think our own Jay Carter's a freaking Jaguars fan. If
I think he is
mistaken, but
I think he is
of 10 maybe. So, but I became 11, I guess. I became 11 with this response. So Trevor Lawrence was interviewed in a game recently against the Chargers. And did you catch this game?
No, I haven't watched.
Chargers are up by a ton at half. And Trevor Lawrence has had the worst game of his career, worst half, really. He's thrown 4 interceptions and he's playing atrocious. It's just not going well. Right. And so fast forward, Jaguars end up winning.
Yeah. I knew that there was a massive comeback.
It's a massive comeback. Trevor Lawrence has the best half of his career right immediately after, within the same night of his worst half of his career. And so they wanted to peek into his mind. We talk about mindset, and he said, what were you thinking? And he said, the only thing I could think of at halftime when I thought about the 4 interceptions and the way I played was good. And he goes, where'd you get that from? He goes, I actually got that from Jocko Willink. I was listening to some extreme ownership stuff, and he was talking about Jocko's content and everything else. And he said, and the only thing I could keep thinking was good. Adversity, good. Challenges, good. And it made me think of this other part that I wanted to highlight this week. And this principle I wanted to drive home. This was them telling a story. It's later in the book, under the plan chapter. And he says, Jocko looked at me and he said, I guess you guys are going to get some. He said with a confident smile and a nod. He fully understood the risks, but he also knew our plan was sound and our assault force and supporting assets were well prepared to meet the enemy threat. I guess so, I said, smiling back at Jocko and nodding in agreement, adding a phrase we used when facing anything particularly challenging or miserable. Good times. Good times. And that is a crucial branch of living a growth mindset, is your response to challenges, embracing challenges, right? Growth mindset of individuals, leaders, if you will, when a challenge pops up, they don't stray away from it. In fact, what great leaders do, leaders of themselves, and thus being able to be better leaders of others, they prepare for those.
Right.
So I thought about Trevor Lawrence in that story. It's like the only way a guy like that could have a response at half of good is because he has worked his tail off, and he's been in that situation not just once, but a bunch of times before in some capacity.
And he said good multiple times prior to. If I can add something.
Yeah,
right here,
go ahead.
I watched it. I sent you this video from the doctor just to add some science behind everything that you're talking about right now. Is when you say good to challenges, when you tell yourself this is good, this is pushing me, this is helping me grow, I'm actually enjoying this. You're changing your brain. You're changing your receptors in your brain to release dopamine, the stuff that makes you feel happy and good, during times of challenge and difficulty and stress, rather than creating a separation and putting that feeling of success on an item or on a trophy or on the outcome. You're putting the happiness, you're putting that struggle, or you're putting that happiness on the struggle and on the stress. And when you do that, you change your brain, dude. You actually change. You're reinforcing to yourself to do hard things because that's good. It makes you feel good and it's going to help you grow. It's so incredible. It's incredible, dude.
It's a game changer. That literally is the main focus today. If there's one thing we can glean from today's episode, it is your body, your mind, it literally will wire itself appropriately, right? We talk about growth mindset when we choose the proper mental response, which is so interesting because it has to be a mental response first, then our physical body follows. And words help, but it's crazy how that works. So Kelly McGonigal, she's somebody who's done groundbreaking work in this aspect as well. She's a professor from Stanford. And she said that you can literally change your biological makeup to become a courageous person when you do this. That's literally where courage comes from. Instead of leaning away or running away from something that's stressful, when you lean into something that's stressful and you tell yourself, hey, this is good. You recognize that it's a good thing for you. Challenges help you grow. When you recognize that and you wire your brain, then your body can follow suit. And then thus your life changes, right? And so it's just
so good.
And it's interesting because the data backs it up. You know, they asked about heart disease. She was researching heart disease. And, you know, she basically came to the conclusion that what is one of the major contributing factors to heart disease, to arteries, having issues and all this stuff, right, with your heart, is actually people's response. Heart disease, one of the major contributing factors per her research was not diet and all these things. It was that people run and have a bad perspective or response to stress. They run away from it. And if people would understand what stress truly is, it would change their lives forever. And they can but the cool thing is she gave an antidote, which was you can train yourself to run towards it. You can train yourself to lean into it. You can train your response to go, hey, good. I threw 4 interceptions. Good. Adversity. Good. Now you're following those kinds of paths in your life. And it's like, oh, and then you look back and go, oh my gosh, like life did happen for me. All those hard things, they happened for me. So anyways, I love the route that took because it's extremely, it's a complete and utter life-changing thing to literally just cultivate the proper response to stress. And I do believe my personal belief is that life was designed that way on purpose, right? Yeah. Like at the root of truth, like it's supposed to be messy. It's supposed to be really hard. It's supposed to be challenging because look at what it does for us as people. Look at what that does. And I don't mean to get theological with everybody, but I love to hold on to the belief and idea that dude, somebody laid that out for me one day prior. Somebody laid that out and I got so excited and jacked about that idea, that truth. I got so pumped because I was like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Because it was all laid out for me. And I was like, oh, send me now. Send me now. I'll go. And it's just a game changer, man. So man. I'm grateful for today's episode. This was a fun one. I'm excited about diving further into this book as the month progresses.
Likewise, I just want to add one thing here as you kind of wrap up. Like, this is all incredible stuff, Dal. But I just want to add this. you're going to, as you take ownership of things, challenges are going to become easier. They really will. Challenges, like you're saying, dude, they will become easier. But that's exactly when you know you've grown, and now it's time to find new challenges that are going to push you to utilize that exact same method, but now with a different challenge and now with a different stress. And that's how growth growth compounds, right? It compounds that way. So valuable. I loved this episode so much. Dallas, thank you so much, man. Thank you so much for teaching, pointing out these important principles. I'm very grateful for you. So thank you, man. Crushed it.
Thank you. That was a fun one. What we got to close out with a get some. We got it.
Real quick before we close out
this month.
For everybody listening, we're going to continue to talk about extreme ownership every Saturday in the month of February. So grab a copy, read along with us. Even if you don't read the whole book, open it up. There's so many powerful things to be learned in this book. And that's what we're going to be talking about this month. So grab a copy and get to reading. Dallas, thank you again so much for your time, man. What do we want to sign out with?
We're going to sign out with get some.
Get some. Classic Jocko Willink. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Get some.
There we go.